Welcome to the 2021 Tel Aviv University Board of Governors. It's the first time we do a hybrid board meeting, which means that we want to welcome all our international Zoom viewers, and shalom to everyone, and also to the audience here. Before I'll talk a little bit about the importance of the Kadar Family Award for Outstanding Research at Tel Aviv University, I would like to ask Professor Ariel Porat, President of Tel Aviv University, to greet.
Distinguished Presidium, the Kadar family, award laureates, dear guests. I'm not sure the Kadar family knows this, but I was involved in the Kadar Award from its first days, well before becoming Tau's president. I've seen it grow and flourish, and I feel parental pride. Former Tau president Yossi Klafter appointed me in 2015 to the founding committee for selecting recipients. During the award's first 2 years, we committee members fine-tuned the criteria for choosing recipients and promoted the award as a leading one at the university. The Kadar Award quickly gained prestige on campus and indeed in the academic community in Israel at large. The award is designed to recognize and encourage outstanding research by both senior and junior faculty members in the two main categories of sciences and humanities. In addition, because excellence in teaching was so important to the late Naomi Kadar, who was an educator, and to the Kadar family, the award winners are also judged on their performance as lecturers. I warmly congratulate this year's winners. I know from up close how serious the selection process is and what a great honor it is to receive it. Let me say a few words on a personal level. I have very fond memories of my first meeting with Dr. Avraham Kadar and his family in New York City. Avraham asked me to introduce myself, and when I mentioned my academic field, he asked me to describe my research. This was not a typical get-to-know-you meeting. It was more like a faculty seminar when I was presenting a paper and the Kadar family challenged me with very sharp questions and comments. But you can imagine how much I enjoyed this meeting. Since then, I have gotten to know Avraham Kadar and count him as a good friend. I have also met with his wife, Michal. All three of Avraham's children, Einat, Maya, and Nadav, are Tau graduates. Two of them, Maya and Nadav, were honored just last Thursday at the American Friends Gala for their philanthropic work together with Dr. Anita Friedman. I want to take this opportunity to thank the family and the Naomi Praver Kadar Foundation and its executive director, Lindsay Bodner, for renewing their support for this important award. I look forward to many more years of friendship and collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Porat. Now I want to invite you to listen to a recorded greeting from Miss Maya Kadar Kowalski.
Thank you, governors, and thank you, guests. It's an honor to join you here today. Thank you, President Porat and Professor Pe'er, for your friendship and support of high-level research and scholarship at Tel Aviv University. Thank you, Amos, Barry, Inbal, and Rava, and the whole TAU team for your tireless efforts to make this event a success. Of course, we know that to produce an event of this caliber, either in person or online, is truly impressive. To do it successfully as a hybrid event, hats off to you. I also want to thank the selection committee, who had the difficult and exciting task of choosing the remarkable recipients of the Kadar Family Award. Allow me to tell you about my family and the history of this award. My father, Dr. Avram Kadar, my brother Nadav Kadar, and my sister Einat Kadar Kricheli, and I established the Naomi Foundation to honor my mother, Naomi Prower Kadar, Zichrona Lebracha, a lifelong educator and scholar. My mother taught Yiddish at schools and institutions of higher learning around the world, including the International Yiddish Summer Program at Tel Aviv University, which is now named after her. Through our foundation, my family supports innovation in education. We are proud to support Tel Aviv University in many ways because we see TAU as a hub of innovation. The Kadar Family Award celebrates outstanding research and scholarship in the sciences and the humanities. Through the Kadar Award, we honor the pioneering achievements of TAU's highest level researchers and scholars and give a megaphone to these research so they can amplify their work and people can learn about their findings all around the world. Please join our family in celebrating the 2021 recipients of the Kadar Family Award for Outstanding Research. Congratulations on reaching this high level of distinction, and thank you for your groundbreaking contributions in your respective fields. Mazal Tov.
Okay, I'd like to thank Ms. Maya Kadar Kowalski. And now I would like to thank the Kadar family for their generous gift that makes a real impact on our researchers' everyday life. This impactful gift started in 2015, and you will today learn about our winners in 4 categories: the advanced, or I would say more mature scientists, investigators from the STEM, engineering, medicine area, which we call here at Tel Aviv University the East Side, the advanced investigators from humanities, law, management, economics, and art that we call the West Side of the campus, the younger, up to 10 years faculty members from the East Side, and the young, up to 10 years faculty members from the West Side. So the committee represents all of the faculties in the campus, and as a chair of this committee, I must say that the mission of choosing the top 4 was not an easy task. We were blessed with really outstanding investigators. Overall, we got many applicants and many recommendations. So we'll start with the first one. I will now call for our first Kadar winner from the advanced investigator from the east side of the campus, Professor Emilia Friedman. So let me tell you a little bit about Professor Friedman. So Professor Friedman is a distinguished scholar in the challenging field of control theory, with a career spanning over 36 years. Emilia is also the Hannah and Heinrich Menderman Chair in Systems Control. Just this year, she has reached the highest professional distinction in her field by being elected as Fellow of the IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, as one of the only few women occupying this rank in the field of control theory. In terms of impact in the field, Emilia is really the top person in this field. One can easily verify this by searching just Google Scholar under keywords as control theory, control system, control, and automatic control. So I would say that looking at her really outstanding track record, and before I will turn to Dr. Friedman's actual research that you will hear here, let me add a couple of bibliometric comments. Scopus shows 340 papers of Dr. Friedman, of which probably well over a half must be really important journals. She has 58 papers in an exceptionally high number in Automatica. It's the top journal in the field. 36 papers in IEEE transactions of automatic control. a co-flagship control theory journal, and 20 more in system and control letters. You think overall this is really impressive, over 80 manuscripts only in a very high impact field in her area. Her research topic is time delay, and her hobby is dancing. So she illustrates various delay effects by videos of her dances with her husband, who is also a professor in Tel Aviv University in mathematics. So I think now will be a very good time to show a short video about her work.
What's your connotation when you hear the word delay? Positive or negative? Sometimes delays are annoying, like when they spoil our plans, delaying our flight. But in some cases, delay can be a wonderfully useful phenomenon, helping us solve important challenges. These are the kinds of delays I research within the engineering field of control theory. Delays are unavoidable in control. For example, while driving a car, we try to avoid delays in our reaction if we need to slam on our brakes. In the shower, we try to control water temperature, but there is a delay between turning the faucet and what we feel. Even epidemics like COVID-19 can be studied like control mechanisms. Lockdowns are based on the latest data, but the data includes delays in both diagnosis and reporting. One of our challenges in managing systems that include inherent delays is the gap between the continuous flow of information or communication versus discrete time signals or pulses of information, where we lose the information in between each pulse. Why is this an important challenge to overcome in modern life? Because in the case of modern control systems, we use network-based control, where signals are transmitted through a communication network to manage long-distance control of, say, drones or robots. Take the example of drone flying in Haifa, and we want to control it from Tel Aviv. We send to the drone control signals via a communication network, but from signal to signal there are delays. On the drone side, our control signal is received and is on hold till the next update, so pulse 1 continues until pulse 2 arrives. The classical approach to such control loses information about the drone between the sampling instance. This may be dangerous. That's precisely why we developed a new and efficient time delay approach to network-based control, where we treat the control signals as continuous ones with delays that do not leave out significant information. In contrast to the classical approach, our method allows to stay in real time and prevents losing data about the drone between the sampling instance. This leads us to reliable and efficient control methods. Our methods can be used in a diverse range of modern-day settings that employ network-based control, from power systems to medical operations by remote to advanced defense systems. It's a great feeling to know I'm contributing to this life-changing and life-saving systems reliability.
So I'd like to invite Professor Emilia Friedman. Our next outstanding award winner is Professor Dalit Rom Shiloni from the Department of Biblical Studies and Teen Faculty of Humanities. Dalit's work on prophetic literature is deeply complex and intricate in her attention to inner biblical exegesis. But the approach goes well beyond the more traditional literature, scholarship, and explicitly in the detailed manner engaged in biblical areas. Her research and standing have rendered her as a leader in the field of biblical studies. Her achievement in research have made a significant impact on the field as a whole. Professor Dalit Rom Shiloni has also been a great collaborator with editing volumes, collaborative sessions, and internationally edited series of very important books that gather together leading international voices in the field of Bible, ancient Judaism, and even more broadly, religion in antiquity and biblical theology. Dalit Rom Shiloni is already a pioneer and very well respected in the field of Bible studies. She lives in the old city of Jerusalem with her partner for the last 40 years and acting as a volunteer ambulance driver in Madda for the last 13 years. In fact, her big heart and ability to drive in the ancient city, narrow areas inside the old city of Jerusalem, and rescue people from all religions, give her academic work another unique angle. So let's hear about her research.
The talk to and about God in the Hebrew Bible fascinates me. The authors in the Tanakh know how to praise God in different ways, as for instance in the deeds of creation. To take one example, Marbu Ma'asecha Adonai. They do also know to praise God in his salvation from Egypt. But the question is, what would authors in the Bible do on times of defeat, on times of national subjugation, on times of crisis? How would they explain to themselves and to their contemporaries the roles of God in times of distress? In my book, Voices from the Ruins, The Odyssey and the Fall of Jerusalem in the Hebrew Bible, I presented and studied the broad question, what did the Judeans, prophets, kings, historiographers, poets, and anonymous voices of the people say about their God, the God of Israel, in face of the grave national catastrophe by the early 6th century BCE. This was the time of the destruction of the temple, the fall of Jerusalem, and the capture of King Zedekiah in 586 BCE. Events that brought to a tragic end over 400 years of the Davidic dynasty's reign and sealed the crushing defeat of the kingdom of Judah at the hands of the forces of the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II, and followed by several waves of deportation to Babylonia. Hebrew Bible texts of the early 6th century reflect diverse biblical-speaking voices, from vindications of God's actions to expressions of doubt or protest against him. All of them, including those who protest directly in second-person singular, as in Lamentations 2, Tavachta lo chamalta, it is you who slaughtered us, you did not have compassion, it is you, God, who did it, are all motivated by the shared and pious wish to justify God in the face of the national catastrophe. More important to realize is that all are legitimate, courageous ways to speak to and about God in the Hebrew Bible. Coming from that basic motivation and piety, authors often find no way to justify God in the atrocities. Rather, they cry out in protest. My research has shed light on this biblical talk that happens to be very painful and more courageous than usually found in later post-biblical Jewish and Christian sources, including those of the 20th century post-Shoah religious reflections. I can only hope that each and every one of you will find interest in reading more about this rich, lively, painful, pious, and courageous Hebrew Bible God talk.
So I invite Professor Dalit Rom Shiloni. Okay, so now we move to the a little bit younger categories. Professor Yossi Yovel from the School of Zoology, the Vice Faculty of Life Sciences. So Yossi's research is diverse, innovative, and cutting edge in an outstanding way. Bats serve as his focal study group. You can actually call him the Batman. And while this might appear a narrow focus, he exemplifies an exceptional breadth as most versatile and creative ecologist of his generation. Within this large and diverse group of flying mammals, Yossi works on many species of diverse behaviors and life history traits, both in Israel and abroad, and on a plethora of topics spanning from navigation and fourth coast to social interaction and collective movement to vocal communication, sensory integration, and brain connectivity. More recently, his work has extended to include bio-inspired robotics and to collaborate as an equal contributing principal investigator on a plant-oriented project, proposing thought-provoking relationship between rapid increase in sugar concentration in flower nectar and wingbat sound of their main pollinators. Another remarkable characteristic of his work is the use of cutting-edge technologies, including miniature GPS, acoustic biologgers he developed himself, as well as other technological innovations that he continuously pursuing. Among his recent novel contribution in comprehensive evidence for this approach and for cognitive map skills in fruit bat at an early stage of their lives. Both of his worked on topic independently on two different populations of the Egyptian fruit bat, and eventually he published very recently two back-to-back papers in the same issue of Science, highlighted in the issue's cover as the most complementary evidence for development and possession of a cognitive map in any free-ranging animal so far. So from my direct acquaintance of this particular work, I can testify that his treatment of data and statistical analysis are super rigorous and at the highest scientific level. Let's learn a little bit more about what Professor Yossi Yovel is doing.
Most scientists study animals in order to understand humans. I study animals in order to understand animals. I always loved animals. I always read about animals. I always wanted to be with animals. I always caught any animal that I found, despite the resistance of my parents. But only when I arrived at university and I encountered scientists, I realized that what I really want to be is a scientist that studies animals. Ecology and neuroscience are two of the most influential fields in biology today. They are essentially interested in two sides of the same coin: how animal behavior interacts with the environment and how the brain controls behavior. But there is very little transfer of ideas between them. This is the gap that my lab tries to narrow. We do this by developing miniature technology that allows us to study how animals make decisions in the wild. I call this approach neuroecology. I mostly study bats because of their unique characteristic. Bats are remarkable navigators. They live for dozens of years, and they are extremely social, sometimes roosting in colonies with millions of other bats. Over the past decades, my lab has developed miniature sensors, the smallest of the world in their kind, in order to study bats in the wild. Our miniature devices include GPS sensors, microphones, accelerometers, and other physiological sensors. We use these devices in order to track the smallest animals ever tracked before. We found, for example, that a 30-gram bat can fly over 200 kilometers on a single night. We can take this data to create mathematical models for explaining animal decision-making. We further used our sensors in order to study how groups of bats hunt together, in order to understand how newborn pups learn to navigate, and in order to examine how bats deal with sensor interference. Our work also goes beyond basic science. We mimic bats' abilities in robotics and have developed robots that use sound in order to navigate, just like bats. We've also developed bat-inspired algorithms in order to assist farmers with precision agriculture. So one could say that we develop technology in order to study bats, and we study bats in order to develop technology.
So I want to invite Professor Yossi Yovel. Last but not least, Professor Domenico Agustini from the Department of General History and Teen Faculty of Humanities. So Domenico's outstanding research has focused on reassessment of Iranian apocalyptic and pathological ideas and their origins in late antiquity. His original innovative arguments and theories have helped the opening of a new perspectives and methodology of research. His recent book, in cooperation with Dr. Estrup, that consists in commented new English translation of the Buddhism, the Zoroastrian, good for me, book of creation, will have a really secular impact. It will offer a consistent and complete philological and literary instrument to understand several religions and philological aspects and their evolution in history. This volume has appeared in Oxford in one of the most famous academic series of the world, with a preface of Shaul Shaked and an appendix by Guy Strumassa. A fact that enormously emphasized the prestige of this study. Furthermore, he has a long experience of international teaching activities with remarkable dedication and didactic expertise in various languages and different cultural traditions, and that he has been frequently invited to seminars, talks, conferences, or as individual speaker for his prestige and originality. Domenico's passion for ancient Prussia dates back to his childhood. During the summers, he enjoyed hearing about Iranian history and myth from a family friend, a noted bioarchaeologist who worked several times in Iran. Domenico's admiration for ancient Prussia was well developed early on. His third grade teacher often recalled jokingly that when she was glorifying Athenian democracy in contrast to the Parthian, Domenico disagreed. The Parthian, he said, were paragons of religion, tolerance, and culture diversity. This defense of Parthians was, to put it mildly, worrying. And Domenico's mother was worried that her son was identified with the wrong side. Let's hear more about his research.
It's a 651 current era. I'm a Persian citizen of the Sasanian Empire, which just collapsed under the tremendous victories of the Muslim army. I'm also a member of a unique and ancient religion, Zoroastrianism, founded by the prophet Zarathustra, and which was so far the official belief of my empire. My religion recognizes only one creator God, Ahura Mazda, and considers our earth as a battlefield of dualistic and opposite forces, such as good and evil, truth and lie, and light and darkness. For the Zoroastrian, the Muslim conquest is a defeat of huge proportions. In the wake of this social, religious, and political tragedy, they begin to compose apocalyptic texts. In ancient Greek, apocalypsis, apocalypse, means revelation, and it is not necessarily a negative thing, as popular culture understands. These texts carry the revelation of God, and there is a good news. Though the coming of the new faith has brought about the disintegration of the fundamental values of society and the loss of the religious identity, this is just part of a precise, a positive design of salvation and continuity. Ahura Mazda will send a savior who will reestablish the Zoroastrian religion and will foretell a new ideal world. My research is to connect these apocalyptic accounts, often obscure and inscrutable, to history. I try to uncover the historical identity of characters and to locate events that appear in the text temporally and geographically. I try also to determine why, when, and where these texts were composed and reworked along the history of the Zoroastrian community. Among other things, my findings have confirmed the existence, up to around 3 centuries after the Muslim conquest of Iran, of Zoroastrian or pro-Zoroastrian Iranian princes and governors who tried to rebel against the authority of the Muslim rulers. Each time that Zoroastrian saw one of them as that long-awaited savior and kept their hopes alive in their accounts. In our current day dreadful period of pandemic, we can learn that even the greatest, the most devastating calamity is ultimately just one event among many on the road to the promised end. Perhaps as for Zoroastrian readers seeking consolation and hope in their text, apocalyptic literature can give us a sense of order and relief as we face our own life challenges.
So I want to invite Professor Domenico Agostini. Okay, I want to invite Professor Yossi Uvel to say a few words and thank the foundation on behalf of all recipients.
Okay, hi everybody. So first, congratulations to all of the winners, and thank you to Professor Steif, Professor Porat, and Professor Pe'er. First, I would like to thank the Kadar family and the Kadar Foundation, the Naomi Foundation, for this great honor. I think that I speak in the name of most, maybe all scientists when I say that we do not expect to receive awards for our work, but when we do receive them, it's a huge boost for our motivation. In preparation for this short talk, I read a little bit about the foundation and about the founder, Dr. Avraham Kadar, and I found, if I may say so, that there were a few similar junctions that we faced during our professional life. So Dr. Kadar started as a physicist and then on decided to become a physician, and he was always extremely passionate about education, science education, children education. Similarly, I also started as a physicist, but very early on became interested in biology, understanding that biology is what I really want to study. And I also try to be highly involved in science education. So for example, I'm the head of the biology high school committee, which is basically the committee that decides what biology major high school students in Israel will study. I'm also involved in an initiative that is trying to bring top Israeli scientists to speak in front of the general public in the Israeli periphery, in places which are usually not used to accept or to hear these scientists from all universities, I should say. But no less important than science education, in my opinion, is academic education or education about the academy. And what do I mean by this? I often give talks to the general public about my work, about bats. And wherever I go, whomever I speak with, the first and sometimes the only question is, what is it good for? What are your bats good for? I like to answer this question provocatively. I often say they're good for nothing except for my own curiosity. But of course, it is legitimate to ask what is science good for? But I think that if this is the only or the main question that we are asked, then we are doing something wrong. I think that we in universities, in the academy, must educate children and decision makers alike about the importance of basic science. And I think it should not be difficult to do so, because if we in universities do not do basic science, then nobody will do basic science. And without basic science, there is no future, not for the high tech, and not for the medical industry, and not for anything. And therefore, I think that the Kadar Foundation, the Naomi Foundation, is doing very wisely when investing in the humanities. For example, with the program of studying Yiddish. Because without the humanities and without the social sciences and without the arts, there will be no academy. I think that Tel Aviv University is a remarkable example for scientific diversity. I myself enjoy this diversity almost on a daily basis by collaborating with scientists on campus who study consciousness, who study music, and even lately who study the Talmud. So it is well known that a good speech must start with a joke, or at least end with a joke. So here's my joke. Do you know what the baby mouse said when it saw a bat for the first time? It said, "When do I get my wings?" So people usually say that we should not feed our children fish. We should give them fishing rods. My version of this is we should not feed children with bat soup. We should give them bat wings. And by the way, it's highly non-recommendable to eat bat soup these days. Thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. So, I think you witness an example of 4 outstanding scientists at Tel Aviv University representing our wings, 4 wings. And I would say that you can also see the diversity that Tel Aviv University can offer, from biblical science and history to biology and electrical field and mathematics. And basically we had everything, except from a joke from me. So I actually decided not to tell a joke this time. But I really want to thank the Kadar family again. I had the pleasure of interacting with Nadav Kadar, and I think I met Avraham as well a few years ago. And we really want to thank them for this generous award. I think it becomes very difficult for us, and I want to thank all the committee members. Some of them are vice deans for research at the 9 faculties that we have at Tel Aviv University. Some of them are external reviewers that help us because, as you can see, the fields are sometimes seems to be narrow, but they could be expanded. And so I want to thank all the people that help us choose those 4. As I mentioned, it was a very difficult task. I also want to thank all of you for being here. The people that are around the world, thank you for attending. And I now want to invite all the awardees for a joint picture. Thank you again.